Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Nellie's Promise. Chapter 4, Telling the Truth. Samantha turned sharply and ran back upstairs. Nellie, Aunt Cornelia said in a soft, sad voice. Well, I'll talk about this over later. Right now, I think you better go speak to Samantha. Nellie rose slowly, and slowly she followed Samantha upstairs to the room. She dreaded the conversation that she knew she and Samantha must have. Samantha was sitting on the window seat. The window was open, and a branch covered with pink blossoms looked bright in the darkness. It bobbed gracefully on the soft spring breeze. Samantha faced Nellie. So, you're going to leave, she said flatly. Her voice sounded tired, as if all life and hope had been drained out of it. Nellie nodded. Will you take Bridget and Jenny with you? Samantha asked. I'm responsible for them, Nellie said stiffly. They are my sisters, even though they like you better than they like me. That's not true, said Samantha. It's true that they're with you more than they're with me, said Nellie. You tell them stories, you play with them, you put them to bed. They turn to you for comfort when they're sad or scared, but not to me. I never meant to make you feel left out, said Samantha. It's just that all my life I've wanted sisters. And I've sort of thought that I was helping you by caring for Bridget and Jenny. You told me that it was hard for you to comfort them when they cried for your parents because you missed your parents so much yourself. Oh, said Nellie. Her jealousy began to melt away. Samantha went on. I know that I've been spending a lot of time with Bridget and Jenny, especially since the day we went to the settlement house. When I saw them children there, I hated to think of how you and Bridget and Jenny used to be poor and hungry like that. Samantha's eyes filled with tears. I just wanted to go hug Bridget and Jenny and never let them go, she said. I wanted to be with them every minute, to make sure they were safe and happy. Samantha, Nellie began. But Samantha interrupted. I wish I could help all the children at the settlement house and make their lives better, like Bridget and Jenny, she said. It made me sad and angry to know that I couldn't. Is that why you were crying in the cab when we came from the settlement house? Asked Nellie. Samantha nodded. I thought you hated the settlement house, said Nellie, and that's why you never went back with Aunt Cornelia and me. Oh no, said Samantha. I wanted to go. I thought it was a good thing to give you time alone with Aunt Cornelia. I'm trying to give you time alone with Uncle Gar too. You've been leaving me alone with them on purpose? Asked Nellie. Yes, said Samantha. I could tell something was bothering you. You weren't very happy at school or here at home. You didn't want to seem to talk to me about it, so I thought that if you were alone with Uncle Gar and Aunt Cornelia, you would tell them what's wrong. Oh, Samantha, said Nellie. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I misunderstood you. I was jealous of you and thought you were jealous of me. Samantha looked ashamed. In a low voice, she said, I was jealous of you. I knew it was terrible of me, but I couldn't help it. Everyone was always so proud of you. And it sort of hurt my feelings that you didn't seem to like our school anymore. I'm so sorry, said Nellie. I could tell that I was making you unhappy. I knew that I was ruining our friendship so badly that the only thing for me to do was to go away. Don't go, Nellie, Samantha begged. Please, don't go to Boston. Nellie sighed. I have to, she said. I'll have to borrow money to buy a train ticket from Uncle Gar and Aunt Cornelia. I'll pay them back every penny as soon as I can. But Uncle Gar and Aunt Cornelia love you, Samantha protested. They want to adopt you and Bridget and Jenny and take care of you forever and ever. They told me so. Uncle Gar and Aunt Cornelia are good, kind people, said Nellie, but I'm not sure they'll be able to take care of us forever and ever. Why not? Asked Samantha. Because they're not their real parents, said Nellie. They're not my real parents either, exclaimed Samantha. Nellie's heart twisted. Somehow, in the midst of all her trouble, she had forgotten that Samantha was an orphan too. Samantha spoke earnestly. Don't you see, Nellie? We're trying to start a whole new family. It doesn't make any sense that Aunt Cornelia are not your real aunt and uncle. Well, yes, I'm afraid it does, said Nellie. She decided it was time to tell Samantha the whole truth. You were right when you said something was bothering me, she said. I've had a terrible secret. You see, my real uncle, Uncle Mike, I saw him on the street a few weeks ago. I ran away from him, but he said he would come find me. He said he would take Bridget and Jenny and me away from him. We'd have to work for the factory and give all our money to him. Samantha gasped. Why didn't you say something? She asked. I didn't want everyone to worry, said Nellie. Anyway, there didn't seem to be much point. I don't know how we can stop him from taking us if he wants to. He's our real uncle. He said we belong to him. So that's why you want to go to Boston, said Nellie. To hide from your Uncle Mike so he can't find you. Yes, said Nellie. That was part of the reason. But, Nellie, Samantha interrupted, you've been very brave. You're the bravest girl I know. But I think the problem with Uncle Mike is too big for you to handle all by yourself. First thing tomorrow morning, let's tell Uncle Guard and Aunt Cornelia about Uncle Mike. I'm sure they can help. All right, said Nellie. She was not sure anyone could help. She certainly did not see the way that Uncle Guard and Aunt Cornelia could stop Uncle Mike. That night, for the first time in weeks, Nellie and Samantha talked late into the night. They knew Uncle Guard and Aunt Cornelia were talking to one another because the grown-ups did not come to tuck them in. At least not while Nellie and Samantha were awake. The next morning, when Nellie went downstairs to Samantha, she felt much happier than she had been going out the night before. Samantha was her friend again, and everything was better. As Nellie and Samantha pressed the door to the parlor, they heard voices. Nellie froze inside. She grabbed Samantha's hand. It's Uncle Mike, Nellie whispered, horrified. He found us. He's here. He's come to take us away. Samantha looked scared. She pulled Nellie away from the parlor. What should we do? Nellie could feel that Samantha was trembling. She looked at Samantha's pale face, and suddenly Nellie was furious. She could not bear to have Uncle Mike make Samantha scared. She was tired of being afraid of him herself. Nellie squeezed Samantha's hand. I'm going to face him, she said. I owe it to Bridget and Jenny and myself, too. I'll spend the rest of my life running away from him if I don't stand up to him right now. Samantha bit her lip and nodded. I'll come with you, she said. Together, Samantha and Nellie went into the parlor. Nellie took a deep breath. Hello, Uncle Mike, she said. Uncle Mike was slouched in a chair. He nodded to Nellie. So, Nellie girl, he said, at last I found you. Uncle Gark spoke up. That's not quite true, he said firmly to Uncle Mike. We found you, Mr. O'Malley. You're here today because we asked you to come. Uncle Mike growled. Asked me to come, did you? More like you had that detective fellow chase me down and drag me here. Nellie was confused. She looked at Uncle Guard and Aunt Cornelia with a confused expression on her face. But why? She said. Uncle Cornelia came to Nellie and put her hands on Nellie's shoulders. We've been looking for your uncle ever since you and your sisters came to live with us, she was explained. We've wanted to speak to him about adopting you and Bridget and Nellie. You and Bridget and Jenny. Uncle Guard added. Our detective finally found out where he was a few days ago. When you told us last night you wanted to go to Boston, we thought we'd better speak to him right away. So, Nellie girl, you've been keeping secrets, have you? Said Uncle Mike. You didn't tell these fine folks that you saw your dear old Uncle Mike a few weeks ago. You didn't tell them that I said that I'd find you and your sister and take you back to live with me. No, said Nellie. I didn't want to worry them. Aunt Cornelia hugged Nellie. Oh, you dear child, she said. No wonder you want to go to Boston. You want to hide from your uncle. Well, you need not worry any longer. We have these detectives bring your uncle here today to settle everything. If you want to be adopted by us, we have papers for your uncle to sign to give up his rights to you and Bridget and Jenny. We will settle it so that you girls will live with us from now on, said Uncle Guard. There are laws to protect children and to see it that we've treated properly. Your Uncle Mike won't ever be able to take you away once he signs the legal agreement. Uncle Mike crossed his arms over his chest. I might sign these papers, or I might not, he said, full of bluster. After all, the girls are the children of my dear late brother. It'd be lost to me not to see them anymore. Of course, rich folks like you could pay me to sign. How much money are Nellie girl and her sisters worth to you? How dare you, sir, said Uncle Guard. Nellie stepped forward so that she might stand in front of Uncle Mike. Uncle Guard had reminded her of what Miss Brennan had said about the laws protecting children. I wouldn't ask for money, Nellie said to Uncle Mike. I'd just sign these papers if I were you. Would you now? Said Uncle Mike with a smirk. Yes, said Nellie coolly, because if you don't sign, I promise you that I will tell everyone how you abandoned Bridget and Jenny and me and took all our money and left us to starve and freeze to death in January. I'm sure it is against the law to treat children that way. I don't think any judge would let you have us back if he knew how mean you were to us. In fact, I bet you probably have to go back to... You'd probably have to go to jail. Uncle Mike's jaw hung open in shock. Then he snatched up the pen and scrawled his name on the papers. It's good riddance to bad rubbish is all I can say, he growled. He shoved his hat on his head and then shook his fist at them all as he left. I hope I never see any of you again as long as I live, he shouted. For once, Nellie agreed with Uncle Mike wholeheartedly. When the door slammed shut behind Uncle Mike, Aunt Cornelia and Uncle Guard collapsed into chairs. Samantha threw her arms around Nellie and hopped up and down. Oh, Nellie, she said, you were wonderful. Oh, I'm so happy. Now you don't have to go to Boston. But Nellie still looked solemn. Uncle Guard pulled Nellie into his lap, and Aunt Cornelia said, What's on your mind, Nellie? Nellie leaned back against Uncle Guard. It was hard to tell unhappy truths to kind people than to mean people like Uncle Mike, but she had to do it. Getting away from Uncle Mike wasn't the only reason I wanted to go to Boston, she said. You see, I promised my mother that I'd always take care of Bridget and Jenny. I thought if I went to Clark School in Boston and learned to be a teacher, I could keep my promise to man. Now that I realize that no matter what happens, I'd still like to be a teacher like Miss Brennan someday. I don't want to sound ungrateful. The school Samantha and I go to here in New York is very fine, but I don't think it's right for me. It's just not practical enough. Aunt Cornelia smiled. I understand, she said. Let's ask Miss Brennan. I'm sure she'll know if there's a school like Clark School here in Boston. If there is, we'll enroll you right away. Samantha gave Nellie a playful poke. You see, she said with her, you'll be able to stay in New York, right here in New York, and never do any more fluttery arm dancing ever again. Come on, tell me, said Nellie. We promised each other that we wouldn't have any more secrets. Remember? Samantha grinned. I remember. It was a bright, sunshiny morning in May. Nellie and Samantha were on their way to school. At least give me a hint, coaxed Nellie. What's your secret wish about? It's about my birthday, said Samantha, which is only 3 weeks away. That's pretty soon, said Nellie. Oh, Samantha, please tell me your secret birthday wish is bloomers for me. No, said Samantha, but my wish does have something to do with you. Nellie looked so puzzled that Samantha laughed. All right, Samantha said, I'll tell you. My secret wish is that your adoption will be finalized by my birthday. The present I like most would be for Bridget and Jenny and you to be my sisters, really and truly. Really and truly, once and for all, said Nellie, smiling at her friend. Yes, I'd like that too. The two girls stopped in a corner. Well, here's where we say goodbye, said Nellie. She and Samantha did not go to the same school anymore. Mrs. Brennan had known the perfect school for Nellie, and Aunt Cornelia had enrolled Nellie in it immediately. Nellie loved her new school. It was very practical, and everything she learned there would be useful. Goodbye, Nellie, said Samantha. I'll see you later. Yes, said Nellie. I'll see you at home. How she'd love to say that. Samantha skipped off toward her school. Nellie stood in the corner for a moment, watching her go. Samantha must have known that Nellie was watching her. Without turning around, Samantha waved goodbye. Nellie laughed out loud. Samantha was waiting with a very fluttery arm. And that's the end of Nellie's Promise. Thanks for listening.